I'm Rob Dyer. I'm the Cockle officer with Natural Resources Wales on the River Dee. So a cockle is a shellfish that lives out in the sand in the river here. They start off really small, sort of microscopic, so you barely see them, and they grow up to the size of maybe a really big one would be the size of a golf ball. They live about 3 or 4 years, maybe longer, but they get eaten by the birds, they get caught by the fishermen, so probably 3 or 4 years is a pretty good estimate for a cockle's lifespan. Today we're out on the West Kirby bed on the English side of the River Dee. This is quite a large bed, and historically we've seen quite a lot of fishing activity here. Other beds on the English side include the Cockle bed as we head upstream, and then further upstream the Thurston bed. If we go over to the Welsh side, we've got the Salisbury bed over there, the number 3 buoy bed, and the Mostyn and Talacra beds. And then right out in the middle of the estuary, we've got the Mostyn Deep and the Salisbury Middle beds, which have been very productive over the last 3 years. So we're conducting one of our spring stock surveys today, which involves us walking around on the river, and we've got set survey points that we look at every year, and we can count how many cockles there are at each survey point, and that allows us to calculate how many cockles there are across the whole estuary. When we survey, we use a 30 centimetre by 30 centimetre quadrat, and we push that down into the sand, and we take out everything that's inside that quadrat with a rake. We'll go down about 5 centimetres because that's as deep as the cockles will live. They can burrow down into the sand a little bit and then come back to the surface to feed. Everything that's inside that quadrat, we put into a sieve, and we sieve out all of the sand or the mud that's there. And what we're left with is the cockles that are in that sample. We bag that sample up and take it back to our office where we do all our processing. We count all the cockles, we age them all from the growth rings that you can see on the shells, and then we weigh them, and in some cases we measure them. And this allows us to calculate how many cockles there are across the whole river and how much weight we have of cockles, which is the important bit for when we're setting a quota for the fishermen. The River Dee is a protected area for various designations. There's a number of bird species that spend the winters here, and they're really important populations of birds, like the oyster catcher. The oyster catcher's favourite food be cockles, which is why it's so important that there are lots of cockles here in the river to feed the oyster catchers through the winter. So when we set the quota for the fishermen and how much cockle they can take each year, we use a bird food model to make sure that we are leaving enough cockle for the birds to eat. Now, what that does is we assume that there is a large, healthy population of birds on the river, and we put aside thousands of tonnes for the birds to eat over the winter. As well as the birds that like to eat the cockles, people like eating cockles as well. And on the Dee, we have 54 fishermen who spend 6 months every year coming out and fishing for cockles. Now, last year, the fishermen took 2,500 tonnes of cockles. That 2,500 tonnes seems like a huge amount of cockles, which it is, but overall in the river we had over 10,000 tonnes of cockles last year. So the river is huge, and there's so many cockles out here that there's enough that the people and the birds can share what's available. The fishermen work 6 months of the year. They start on July the 1st, and they can fish all the way through until the end of December. This is one of the bags we provide for the fishermen to put their catch in when they take it out every day. This bag here will hold 500 kilograms of cockles when it's filled right to the top. So we can manage the amount that the fishermen are taking by giving them a bag of the right size. Last year, 500 kilograms a day was how much the fishermen were allowed to take. It might be that in a different year that's too much, so we might cut them down to 400 or 300 kilograms. And to do that, we would just provide them with a smaller bag, and if their bag is full up, then they know they've taken enough for that day. Almost all of the cockles that are harvested by the fishermen from the River Dee here end up going abroad to markets in Spain and in Holland.
My name's Ian Marland, one of the licence holders on the River Dee. feel very privileged to have a licence because they're quite hard to get hold of. I've cockled since I was 16, since I left school, and then it got regulated in 2008 and the cockle came to an end only for the licences that were issued. Our typical day is we go out in boats to access the cockle beds, put the boats aground, and then we'll spend so many hours raking the cockles up with a rake, putting them through a riddle to get the small ones out, and then we'll bag them, load them into the boat, and then when the boat floats again, we'll take them to either the Caldy, Thurston slipway, Greenfield, or Connors Quay, which is the designated landing point. As you can see in the background, it is a lovely place to work, and sometimes it's not like going to work because it's so enjoyable just being out there, on the river. No, it's not like working in a factory. It's just really enjoyable. Really nice place to be. Yeah, love it.